The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and welcome to what I'm hoping for is probably the most exciting hour of the day for you. My name is Sanjay Bansal, and before I kick this off and present some of our absolutely awesome speakers, I want to share a quick story about what happened over the weekend. I lived out in sunny Florida, and I'm sitting in over the weekend and drinking my coffee. And my wife goes to me and says, I really enjoy shopping nowadays on the internet. And I said, why so? And she goes, I figured out a way of getting coupons. I said, how do you do that? And she goes, well, what I do is I'll go to all my favorite sites and I'll load up my shopping cart and then I'll just kind of leave it there. And the next thing I know is I start getting coupons and they start telling me when things are coming back in stock, if they were not in stock. And then she goes, that's kind of interesting. But that's what's even more interesting is the other day we called up our favorite airline to buy tickets for our kids to come back home from college for Christmas. And she said the service person picked up the phone and knew exactly what I was looking for and offered to go ahead and book the tickets for me without any getting into the details of what kind of flights and all of that good stuff. And I looked at her and I said, babe, that's awesome, isn't it? And she goes, yeah, it's magic. And I said, no, 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 it's not magic. Let me explain to you how it all works from a commerce and from a marketing and from a service perspective. And she kind of looked at me glazy eyed and she goes, you know what? Let's just change the topic. Well, we changed the topic that day, but today and tomorrow, our topic is going to be how do you actually go about building those integrated customer experiences that all the companies are looking for using commerce, marketing, and service together. We've got two awesome speakers, but before that, I just want to take a quick minute and thank everybody for spending the time with us. You as our partners, our customers, we really appreciate everything that you do for Salesforce. And taking an hour and a half away from your time today and even tomorrow is asking a lot, but we'll make sure that we do make it the best 1.5 hour for y'all for today and tomorrow. So moving on. Real quick, I would love to introduce our absolutely fantastic speakers, the best in Salesforce right now when it comes to talking about our integrated customer experience offering. Abraham Lloyd from the city of Brotherly Love, Philadelphia. He's one of our experts. He's longtime Commerce Cloud expert, and he's going to be one of our main speakers. And then Mihir Panchal from Seattle. I don't know if what Seattle's known for. I've heard something about the city that almost never sleeps. Mihir is just the guy you want to know. Both Abraham and Mihir, you want to put them on your Christmas list. They are the absolute experts, and we're going to be hearing from them for the next 2 days. You may also want to connect with Stefan Van Brockel. He is our main go-to point person running alliances for Marketing Cloud and Commerce Cloud. Extremely well connected in Europe, extremely smart. I've been working with him for the last 4 years, so absolutely reach out to him too. And then again, my name is Sanjay Bansal, and I'm the global lead for alliances responsible for driving cross-cloud B2C partner enablement. Um, well, I think everyone's kind of seen this slide before, which is the classic safe harbor. We're going to get you fired up about some of the things that we're doing, some of the things that are potentially in the roadmap. But as usual, please get your customers excited. Please get your colleagues excited, but make sure that you tell everybody that unless the product is in GA, please do not buy the product. So please give them that heads up. And with that, I'm not going to take any more of your time away. Ibrahim, please take it away.
Hey, thanks, Sanjay. All right, so when we think about the complete set of marketing, commerce, and service capabilities that Salesforce offers today, the spectrum features an available of rich, wide, and compelling offerings, right? Collectively, Marketing Cloud, B2C Commerce, and Service Cloud are becoming the foundation on which customers grow and nurture the relationships that they have with their customers. So what we've heard from customers is they want guidance on how to integrate these three clouds to provide seamless, consistent, and innovative experiences to their customers. So this series of webinars is designed to provide that guidance to partners, enabling you to have similar conversations with your customers. So what are we going to cover over the next 2 days? Well, at a high level, we'll provide an overview of the B2C commerce connectors for Marketing Cloud and Service Cloud. As part of this, we're going to dive into the architecture for each connector and dive deeper into the respective implementation and technical requirements. But before we begin, I want to connect with everyone on why we're here and why trust matters and why this topic is so important. So as partners, I think you've all probably seen this slide of a version of it before. Today, behind every device and interaction, you have a customer. And today, every one of these customers is connected. They have smartphones, fitness monitors, personal assistants that keep them connected and informed 24/7. And the customers expect their favorite brands to be just as smart and always on as they are. But being connected, these customers want two things: experience consistency and experience innovation. So what do these terms really mean? Well, consistency really speaks to give me an experience I value from our relationship in a consistent and predictable manner. These experiences should behave the same no matter when or where I invoke them. Innovation means something different though. This really says, hey, because I trust you, give me new experiences that improve my life or relationship together. I want to be able to do things faster, have you use what you know about me, and do all of this with the goal of improving my life. Well, candidly, providing this to customers is complex, and it's complex for a couple of reasons. First, commerce is more complex than ever before because we are now connecting to more systems than ever before. The amount of systems, the scale of customer data, and the number of integration points being managed is larger than ever, and it continues to grow. Second, customers are now connected to us in more ways than ever before. And across each of these connections, they expect consistency and innovation in their experiences. Their expectations keep growing at every device they add and every new experience they enjoy. A great experience on one device raises the bar for all other devices and brands that they interact with. So collectively, managing customer relationships as well as the systems that enable them make experience delivery complex and challenging today. So what we'd like to do now is walk through just a handful of findings from the State of the Connected Customer report published by Salesforce in June. These findings highlight the expectations that customers have with the brands that they do business with, and I think they're insightful as to why we're here and why this topic is so important. So to start, 50% of customers say that they've stopped buying from a company simply because a competitor provided a better experience. Similarly, 64% of customers believe that providing excellent customer experiences strengthens their loyalty. Loyalty is important because this, leads to trust. To that point, 65% of consumers also said that exclusive offers and discounts can influence their loyalty, and hopefully you're starting to see a trend. Lastly, 52% of customers said that they're likely to switch brands if a company doesn't make an effort to personalize their communication. Across each of these finds, what customers are saying seems pretty clear. 50% of brand customers are willing to do business with a competitor if they're not given personalized experiences. So this leads us to the topic, why is unified commerce important? Well, unifying commerce and marketing enables us to personalize experiences across the different channels that consumers use to interact with the brands that they love. This fosters loyalty and grows the trust that consumers have with their favorite brands. As trust is our #1 value at Salesforce, we want to enable customers and partners to nurture this trust with their consumers. And so today, we're going to dive deep into the integration best practices between B2C commerce and marketing. As we talk through technical details, use cases, data movement patterns, and best practices, it's important to anchor all of these discussions to one thing. Providing engaging, personalized experiences to consumers grows the trust that they have with the brands they love, and we can facilitate this today through the integration of these two clouds. And so on that note, let's get started. So one of the first questions we want to be able to answer here is, what do we stand to benefit by integrating B2C commerce and marketing cloud? Well, at a high level, the integration removes all email authoring responsibility from Salesforce B2C commerce and moves it to Marketing Cloud, which is a best-of-breed suite for email authoring and content management. These tools can now be leveraged instead of the developer-managed templates used to deliver emails through B2C commerce. Additionally, customers can now benefit from the analytics tracking reporting available in Marketing Cloud to measure performance of email campaigns and content. Another thing you can do here is email content can now be personalized, leveraging Marketing Cloud Einstein. And in addition to that, journeys can be created and customized to build decision-driven experiences for customers. Lastly, storefront behavior can also be monitored via Personalization Builder, and this data can then be mined for revenue opportunities tied to abandoned search, cart, and checkout. So if you look across all of these benefits, you're really taking things that Commerce Cloud candidly does not do well and moving them to Marketing Cloud, which is a best-of-breed solution. And through all of this, you're now able to create these energizing, very, very personalized experiences for customers. So the Marketing Cloud Connector for B2C Commerce supports these features. So first, you can develop personalized customer journeys by leveraging Journey Builder. Product and content recommendations can be leveraged in email templates provided by Marketing Cloud Einstein. B2C Commerce customers can also manage subscriptions to email lists directly via the storefront. And both transactional and behavioral emails can be triggered by B2C Commerce to be delivered by Marketing Cloud. Another great way to think about these features is that this group, what it does, it introduces operational efficiency when creating customer experiences, and the latter group focuses specifically on providing customers with storefront email experiences driven by customer behavior. So now let's spend a minute to describe exactly what are transactional behavioral emails. Transactional emails represent messages delivered to customers that are triggered by a predictable event, typically a transaction. Behavioral emails are a little different though, because they represent messages delivered to customers based on the analysis of customer storefront behavior. Examples of transactional emails include account registration, order confirmation, shipment and fulfillment updates, and contact customer service. Each of these emails is triggered by a customer or a business process completing these or similar transactions. Examples of behavioral emails include abandoned cart, abandoned search, or abandoned checkout. Each of these emails is triggered from within Marketing Cloud based on an analysis of storefront customer behavior enabled by the Personalization Builder Collect.js implementation. So what the implementation does is it tracks cart ads, pages viewed, searches performed, and analyzes customer data to identify abandonment scenarios. Now, one point we'd like to highlight here is what makes this possible is the data being shared by B2C Commerce. In order to power these experiences, enable machine learning driven recommendations, and personalize the content being shared with customers, we need data from the storefront. So what the Marketing Cloud Connector does, it enables this by providing a framework through which you can push storefront data into the Marketing Cloud catalog, as well as data extensions stored within Marketing Cloud. This includes catalog data, product information, pricing and availability data, customer details, as well as orders placed. We'll provide a walkthrough on how this is performed in a few moments. And so let's talk now about what exactly is the Marketing Cloud Connector for B2C Commerce. All right. So it's a Salesforce Labs B2C Commerce cartridge that facilitates the platform communications necessary to enable the integration between B2C Commerce and Marketing Cloud. Here's some of the things it does. It accelerates integration time to market, being an enablement framework. It's an above the API or REST implementation. What Commerce Cloud does is it communicates with Marketing Cloud's REST APIs to be able to trigger transactional emails or individual journeys. It also supports predictive web, subscription management, and provides a framework to enable data feed ingestion generated by Commerce Cloud into Marketing Cloud. Being a storefront cartridge, it's important to recognize that this is not a productized solution, okay? It's not a plug and play solution. It's important to remember that this is an enablement framework and will require customization in Commerce Cloud in order to be able to configure email sends, behavioral monitoring, and data feed generation. It's also a solution that in and of itself is not eligible for Salesforce technical support. One point I want to underscore here is that using this solution doesn't disable your individual clouds from receiving technical support. So if you're working with the Marketing Cloud Connector for B2C commerce, you can still contact technical support if you're having cloud-specific issues. As you move through and consider implementing Marketing Cloud Services engagement through professional services is recommended, but not necessary, to validate your overall configuration and recommendation setup. If you're looking to enable behavioral emails, though, so if you're interested or your customers are interested in abandoned cart, abandoned browse, or abandoned search, or other behavioral scenarios, a Marketing Cloud Services engagement is required for every business unit and email combination. So this is important to remember because this requires scheduling with Marketing Cloud Professional Services. Given that all of these engagements typically happen on a timeline, you'll want to engage with professional services first to understand what their impact on your schedule may be. Thinking through the implementation, here are a couple of considerations as well. The framework that the connector provides is one way to import data from the storefront. Okay, but data storage and the individual implementation that you choose may vary depending on your data volume and frequency of usage. We'll talk through this in a little bit more, how there are multiple ways to update the catalog in Marketing Cloud, data feeds being one way, streaming updates is another. So when you're importing the data into Marketing Cloud, it's important that the data be in the most actionable format possible. This means that you don't want to have to execute any type of post-processing or automation within Marketing Cloud to structure the data in a manner that can be leveraged by your journeys. So let's do a walkthrough now of the architecture and the overall data flow, demonstrating how data goes from Commerce Cloud to Marketing Cloud via the connector, leveraging the connector's enablement framework. So to start, we're going to export catalog data from the B2C commerce staging environment via data feeds. These feeds are going to include the storefront catalog, products, price books, and promotional data, and are generated by B2C commerce on a schedule. We'll pull this data from the staging environment, as staging is where the data is curated by merchandisers. Once it's scheduled, these data feeds are then delivered to Marketing Cloud via SFTP. In order to enable Marketing Cloud, we also want to provide it with customer and order data from the storefront. So in our production environment, we'll generate similar data feeds for these two data groups and schedule their delivery to Marketing Cloud via SFTP as well. Residing in SFTP, Marketing Cloud can now retrieve the storefront data on a schedule and ingest it via its catalog and custom data extensions. This is all handled by automations managed from within Marketing Cloud. And with the catalog, customer, and order data now residing in Marketing Cloud, we can leverage this data during the authoring of email templates and custom journeys. Additionally, this data can be analyzed by Marketing Cloud Einstein to generate personalized product and content recommendations, and these recommendations can then be embedded in customer email experiences. With these data integrations now in place, the B2C commerce storefront can be extended to enable the triggers required to initiate the delivery of transactional emails. So this includes, as examples, the welcome email, the order confirmation, and gift certificate email. Leveraging the Marketing Cloud Connector, the storefront also has the ability to initiate both triggered sends as well as specific journeys. So this is a really important detail to note, because you're not just limited by the use cases supported by the Marketing Cloud Connector out of the box. You have the ability to extend these and support journeys and transactional emails that are very specific to your customer. Additionally, Collect.js can be implemented via the storefront, and what this does is it enables Marketing Cloud's predictive intelligence to handle abandonment scenarios such as abandoned search, cart, and checkout. If a customer meets the configured thresholds for these scenarios, a scenario-specific journey can be initiated for that customer. So this is how abandoned cart or abandoned checkout emails get generated. Where in Sanjay's experience, where he talked about with his wife, she was really happy that, hey, look, I got an email that said I left this, or this might be recommended to me. This is all driven through this machine learning personalization that is enabled by leveraging Marketing Cloud Einstein. So we've gone through this flow once. Let's repeat it now, just highlighting the steps of each key phase. So first, we're going to collect the catalog, product, order, and customer data from the B2C commerce staging and production environments. We're going to move this data to Marketing Cloud SFTP so it can be consumed by Marketing Cloud. Mihir, can you advance to the next slide, please? Thank you. Marketing Cloud consumes this data on a schedule, seeding its catalog and data extensions with the storefront catalog, product, and order customer data. Now that this data is available in Marketing Cloud, it can be leveraged during the authoring of email templates and journeys. The customer data can also be used to inform segments and generate personalized product recommendations that can be incorporated into email experiences. The storefront can now be extended to take advantage of the email templates and journeys created in Marketing Cloud. And as part of this, transactional scenarios are enabled for common use cases, such as the welcome, order confirmation, and order status update emails. Additionally, behavioral monitoring can be implemented via Collect.js, enabling Personalization Builder to seek out customer abandonment scenarios. If the individual thresholds for these scenarios are met by a customer, the customer can then be pushed into a journey for their specific scenario. The Collect.js data is also used to extend the existing customer data in Marketing Cloud, which can also be used to build out and model segments. So with this walkthrough behind us, one of the things that we want to touch on is that it's important to think of the Marketing Cloud connector as an enablement framework, okay? In addition to supporting the use cases that we discussed, you can extend this to support additional use cases that don't come out of the box with the connector. As an example, customers today are using it to do things like coupon reminders, track coupon redemptions, and also share back in stock notifications with their customers. Later in the deck, we'll provide an example of this and how you can model one of these scenarios. And so let's pivot now, and we've talked about the data flow and what the integration looks like. Let's dive a little bit deeper into development requirement and considerations for both B2C commerce and Marketing Cloud when implementing the Marketing Cloud connector. So first, on the Commerce Cloud side, it's important to recognize that the Marketing Cloud connector ships as a cartridge. So if you're a Commerce Cloud developer, you should be familiar with how to install cartridges and extend them accordingly. As part of this, you should understand how to configure REST services when we trigger emails or triggered sends or triggered journeys. This is all done through REST services that are set up in Commerce Cloud and designed to communicate with their corresponding endpoints in Marketing Cloud. So it's important to understand how to configure and set that up. If you're interested in the behavioral emails, it's important to know how to set up Collect.js. Now, Collect.js is a tag-based implementation that basically sends Marketing Cloud information describing a customer's behavior on every page. So if you've done tagging for Google Analytics or Omniture or Salesforce DMP, follows a very, very similar model where you have to do a little bit of server-side work to collect the data that you want to send, and then you have to implement this through into client-side framework that comes with the Collect.js implementation.
Pardon me, Ibrahim, if you don't mind. There's a little bit of a click sound that's coming from your mouse. If you could potentially kind of avoid that. There's some people who are having issues with that. So sorry, my apologies for messing your flow up, but great stuff.
No.
And thank you.
That's great feedback. Sorry about that. Please tell me if you continue to hear it, okay? All right, so picking up, now one of the ways that Commerce Cloud enables transactional emails is through a series of custom hooks that have been implemented. So if you want to be able to leverage this, if you want to extend them, you should be familiar with the hooks model that comes with Commerce Cloud. In addition, Commerce Cloud leverages a series of custom objects to manage some of the data that we use to capture an authorization, as well as what the triggers are that are going to be initiated. So you should be familiar how to use custom objects. And then lastly, if you're going to leverage the feed model to be able to send customer order, catalog, and product data to Marketing Cloud, you should be familiar with how to schedule jobs and implement custom data feeds in a performant way. We provide a framework that, that enables this and guidance on how to do it. Typically, these feeds have to be customized by customers, though, because everyone's catalog is slightly different or unique. As a reminder, if you're moving forward with the Marketing Cloud connector for B2C commerce, please connect with your customer's CSM or customer success manager and tell them that you're moving forward with this so they can support your goals. The group I work in within Cloud Practice is called Product Alignment. We work in service to basically everyone that uses our products, both external customers, partners such as this audience, as well as internal team members. And so if you can tell your CSM or your customer CSM that you're looking to engage the Marketing Cloud connector, what this does is it creates a channel to us so that if you desire support or need support, we can connect with you and listen to some of your concerns or challenges. All right, so let's move on. On the Commerce Cloud side, again, we need to do an environmental audit with the Marketing Cloud representative, okay? So let me, I apologize, let me take a step back. The heading threw me off. On the Marketing Cloud side, one of the first things that we ask you to do is please perform an environment audit with a Marketing Cloud representative. You can connect with your customer's Marketing Cloud customer or success manager, and through this, you want to verify that your customers' use cases align with the model and version of Marketing Cloud that they purchased. As a reminder, if your customer is interested in behavioral emails or wants to implement any of the abandonment scenarios, what this requires is a paid services engagement with Marketing Cloud Professional Services to enable this functionality. Now, as part of this engagement, they perform activities to set up the behavioral scenarios. This is an activity that right now only they can do. Now, safe harbor, there is a desire to simplify this so it doesn't create this dependency on Marketing Cloud Professional Services. What I want to stress here is that right now they have to be engaged in order to implement the abandonment scenarios. So this is something to make sure that your customers understand. Please look to leverage the CSM for that customer as well as part of this conversation, because they can certainly share this information and explain it. In terms of tool competency, there's 3 tools here that your team should be familiar with. There's Personalization Builder, especially if you're looking to implement Collect.js, Journey Builder for building and customizing customer journeys, and Email Studio for authoring templates and being able to leverage the data coming from Commerce Cloud. In order to connect to Commerce Cloud, each business unit connecting as part of the Marketing Cloud instance is going to require an API key to be generated, as well as an App Center account to be created. So it's important that this is handled. This is certainly documented in the Marketing Cloud Connector documentation, but we want to call this out as something that the team should be familiar with. So if you're going to leverage triggered sends, these are going to leverage data extensions. So you should be familiar with both of these concepts. And then if you're going to implement predictive web via personalization builder, this speaks to having some experience implementing collect.js and enabling the configuration of recommendation behavior used for products or content. So you have the ability to define some rules around how recommendations are generated and such. You'll want to understand how to do that so that way you can generate the right recommendations that target customers in a very precise way. And as a reminder, we recommend that you engage Marketing Cloud professional services. It's not a requirement, but this is something helpful to just ensure upfront that your customers have the prerequisites for all desired cross-cloud use cases. Okay, so let's move on. With Marketing Cloud, the data feeds that come from Commerce Cloud are going to come through SFTP. So you should have some experience understanding how to configure SFTP credentials. You want to be able to do this to consume that data. So the product and catalog content feeds are coming from Commerce Cloud. They're going to be consumed via personalization builder and stored in the Marketing Cloud catalog. So this is something you should be familiar with as well. The customer and order feeds will reside in custom data extensions that live within Marketing Cloud. And if your customer is looking to leverage Audience Builder, it's important to understand that Audience Builder integration may require additional services support. So it may, depending on what their use case is, what their data volume is, it may require services engagement with an Audience Builder expert. So one of the things that we see from customers is as data volume grows, the data volume that they're working with can raise questions about what's the right or ideal implementation. If your customers are dealing with tremendous or large amounts of data volume, Marketing Cloud professional services to provide trustworthy recommendations on both data storage best practices that are right for the data volume and desired use cases. So if you're working with a customer whose data volume is large, if you have questions about what's the right way to handle tens of millions of customers or orders or millions of products and such, this is a good opportunity to possibly engage professional services and ask them for just a little bit of guidance. All right, and so I think now we're going to pivot to my good friend Mihir Panchal, and we're going to talk about use cases.
Awesome, thanks, Abraham. That was really good content. There was a lot of information, actually. So before we get into the actual use cases, I believe we've got a few questions. So Sanjay and Stefan, what questions do we have so far that we can potentially answer?
Brilliant, thank you, Mihir. And Abraham, thank you very much. This was awesome. Now, real quick, my name is Stefan. I'll be handling your questions for today's webinar. Just a quick reminder for everyone, please take a moment to post your questions in the GoToWebinar panel. We're going to be picking them up in the panel and then read your questions out one by one to our presenters. So Abraham, I got a few questions here from the audience. So first of all, so is this the cartridge that you were talking about in the very beginning? Is that SFRA compliant?
So as of right now, it's not SFRA compliant, but the TMP team that has ownership of the cartridge has an SFRA compliant version in QA as we speak. So you could expect an announcement probably very, very early Q1 about SFRA compliance being formally delivered. Okay.
Okay.
It's clearly a priority. It's just something that we don't have right now. But like I said, it's going through QA.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So Syed was asking whether, of anything that we've seen so far, is there MuleSoft involved at any point in time?
No, there's no MuleSoft involved. So these are all point-to-point connections. As I said at the beginning, this integration is an above the API integration. So Commerce Cloud, what it's doing is two things. It's sending data feeds that describe customers, products, orders, and catalog information to Marketing Cloud via SFTP. This can be scheduled on a nightly basis or multiple times a day, depending on your frequency and what your delivery model is. And then within Commerce Cloud, when we're triggering these emails, these are simple set REST requests that are going to Marketing Cloud based on their REST API to initiate a transactional email or initiate a journey. Okay, so there's no MuleSoft interactions here. This is all very point to point, and the runtime interactions are extremely lightweight.
Great. So just chiming in on that conversation with a question from Daryl. The question here is so to me that sounds like there's a lot of things that our partners can do themselves. Can you talk a little bit about what you need professional services for from Salesforce, and where we can take, or where our partners can take the development into their own hands?
Well, so I think the things that that professional services provide, first and foremost, your customers are looking to engage in any type of behavioral email scenario, right? So abandoned cart, abandoned search, or abandoned browse. This is something that has to be configured by Marketing Cloud professional services. So this isn't something that can be done by a partner.
So Abraham, let me just add one thing.
Yes.
I think as a partner, you can pretty much do most of it. The one piece where you do need, as it stands today, where you need the professional services is specifically for the triggers for predictive intelligence within Marketing Cloud, which is Marketing Cloud Einstein. So it's that one specific area where you need to set up the professional services as it stands today. And as Abraham mentioned earlier, with Safe Harbor, there is a roadmap item that's being looked at to drive. So that's not the case. But as it stands today, you need it specifically for setting up those triggers within the predictive intelligence piece in Marketing Cloud.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks, Mihir. I appreciate you calling that out. I think the other thing to really look to professional services for is the guidance element related to data volume. Okay, so being a cloud-based solution, 200,000 customers worldwide, global customers worldwide rather, that integrate both Commerce and Marketing Cloud, professional services has seen all of the data volume scenarios that are possible, right? So if your customer has large data volume, I feel like it's reasonable, if you have questions, to engage professional services to ask them for guidance very specific to that. Now, this doesn't mean that they do any integration or they do any work. It's simply a consulting based on what their experience is managing the solution.
Right. Great. So here's another question from John in a little bit of a different scenario, but I think it's a great question because it looks at scenarios, and I think Abraham, you've been talking a lot about scenarios, but then really going in depth and how to actually set the solution up at the end of your presentation. Now let's think, or just imagine for a moment that you are actually working with a customer that has Marketing Cloud already connected to Sales and Service Cloud, and then you want to connect your Marketing Cloud to Commerce Cloud or vice versa in order to get to what you were just talking about. Is there anything that we need to watch out for in terms of the integration?
So candidly, I feel like we could probably do a webinar on this topic, but the one caveat, or the one thing I would say to be aware of, is primary key management, right? So you basically have three clouds now. Marketing Cloud has a subscriber key that is unique and can't be changed. In Commerce Cloud, you now have a key, your Commerce Cloud ID or customer ID representing a customer. And then in Sales and Service Cloud, you have a customer ID or a contact or person account ID that represents that customer in that cloud as well. Mm-hmm. And so if you, Marketing Cloud, if any experiences are going to be generated for customers that live in Commerce Cloud as well as in Service Cloud, they have to be communicated using the same primary key in Marketing Cloud or subscriber ID. Okay,
Right.
so this should be factored into kind of the architecture, and typically what you'll need to do is, and we'll talk about this tomorrow when we talk about setting up commerce and service. We have a mechanism where when a customer account gets created in Commerce Cloud, it goes ahead and sees if that customer also exists in Service Cloud. If it doesn't, it'll create a person account. If it does, it'll grab that Service Cloud ID, so that way that ID is now available in Commerce Cloud. And then depending on what your subscriber ID is, Marketing Cloud, you now have the option of passing that in through Commerce Cloud. So
Right.
to just take a step back, I think primary key management is what you have to look at, and specifically, what is the subscriber ID in Marketing Cloud, because you want to be able to trigger experiences from Commerce Cloud as well as Service Cloud using that ID.
Right. Okay. Brilliant. Now, when you're talking about architecture, I have a question from Ninette here, who's asking whether there's a sample schema that we could share, or is there a sample schema that we need to follow in order to get data from commerce to marketing in an easy way?
Yes, absolutely. So the Marketing Cloud connector, the integration cartridge, and the documentation provides templates for all of this. So there are feeds that are generated. The INT Marketing Cloud cartridge contains the code necessary to generate those feeds. So it immediately comes with a schema describing what the feed is, or what the vanilla version of the feed is. And then what you can do is you could extend that feed to include any custom properties on the customer order, product, or catalog objects that are important for your customer to have in Marketing Cloud as well.
Brilliant. I have a general question here, one from Corey, another one from John, whether we need to watch out for anything on the Marketing Cloud side, whether there are, like, we do have these legacy account types like version 1, Enterprise 2, and whether there are editions that we have to work out for, like the Pro Edition, Corporate Edition, or Enterprise Edition. Is there, can you give just some general guideline of what we need to watch out for there?
Well, I think it's, so what we've seen sometimes with customers is that there's a misalignment between the use cases that they want to engage in and what their Marketing Cloud edition is. Okay, so I'll be very candid. I'm not an expert in legacy and historic Marketing Cloud editions, but what I do recommend as a pre-engagement step is to assess your customer use cases and then validate that those use cases are accessible based on the edition that they have. Okay, and this can be facilitated through the customer's CSM, and if there is a even beyond that, if you're not certain, that is something that can be handled through technical support as well.
Yeah, I would get from a Marketing Cloud perspective, a lot of the stuff that we're talking about here, you're better off with Enterprise 2.0 because Enterprise 1.0 within Marketing Cloud had some limitations or different ways of doing certain things, even just like email or SMS, which actually change things in terms of how this would work. So recommendation right now is 2.0. And if your customer is on 1.0 or a previous version of Marketing Cloud, that's for sure, as Abraham mentioned, let's chat and make sure that we can actually meet those specific use cases.
Great. Thanks, Mahir.
No problem.
I had a couple of other questions that point into the direction of what else we can actually do with that data that we're synchronizing between systems. So I'm just looking at commerce data now flowing to Marketing Cloud, and that's mainly data that we're going to be using, for example, for transactional messaging. Is there other data, such as click data, or is there wish list data, for example, that we could move over from commerce to Marketing Cloud to do something with that in Contact Builder, so that we can empower journeys with more generic data that we're moving over from Commerce Cloud?
Yes, absolutely. This is one of, I think this is one of the great things about the connector, and why I underscored it's important to think of this as an enablement framework more so than a productized canned plug and play solution. So there are no boundaries on the use cases that can be supported here. There's a core set of use cases that are supported, but you can absolutely import additional data and then leverage that data to either extend your customer model so that way you can have richer segments, or to use the data and power additional journeys. We'll provide an example of what that looks like for coupon redemption, where you can track coupon redemptions in Marketing Cloud and then tailor a journey to say, hey, I want to remind this customer that they haven't used this coupon, and branch the journey based on how many days have gone by since that coupon wasn't redeemed. So in terms of describing all the things you can do, I feel like that's a pretty exhaustive list, but you're not limited on what data you can bring in. The feed framework that's in place can be extended and used for any other data that you'd like. So you can extend you can extend the feeds for the individual data objects that are supported, or if you want to bring in additional data, coupons are a great example. Let's say you want to generate coupons in Commerce Cloud and then store those in Marketing Cloud so that they can be part of email campaigns. You could do that as well.
Okay. Brilliant.
Oh, Stefan, there's one more thing.
Sure.
We don't. So there's a lot of emphasis today with customers about segmentation, okay, where they want to be able to generate segments, model segments in Marketing Cloud, be able to throw individual segments into journeys. One of the things that you can do with this data is use it to build out richer customer models that can be used to create really, really powerful segments, okay? So this is one element of the integration framework, I think, that's important to share and really get creative about, where what data is available, what data can I collect, what data can I decorate my customers with, and then bring over so that we can build out these really rich segments to create very personal creative journeys.
Perfect. Guys, I got two more questions for you before we move on. I think this is a great conversation, just trying to get to more of the general questions here. I know you guys have a lot of questions out there right now. I'm just trying to get to the more detailed ones after Mihir has presented, because he's going to get to a lot more insights and some of the use cases. So one of them is, so Ritesh is asking, why are we using SFTP to transfer data between Commerce and Marketing Cloud when we could also use Heroku to keep the data in sync, and whether there's any plans to bring Heroku in to keep data in sync between Commerce and Marketing Cloud, or obviously other systems that could be regarded as such.
Well, so you're not limited to SFTP. Candidly, I think SFTP is convenient because it's built into the platform, and it doesn't require an additional purchase or have additional costs the way that extending to Heroku does, right? So Heroku is an additional product. That additional product creates additional dependencies for customers. And so SFTP is convenient, available, and trustworthy. And for the frequency of the data feeds and the movement that needs to occur, it seems like a reasonable solution. It's certainly not the only solution, though. So you could certainly extend. When you think about Marketing Cloud, it doesn't really care where the data lives. It just needs to know, and you have to ensure that it has access to it. That could certainly be somewhere else.
Okay, brilliant. Now, when we're talking about FTP, and here's my last question from Douglas. What are your thoughts, guys, on GDPR and just being compliant there with the European data laws? If we're using SFTP or FTP, can we make sure that data is removed in these kind of scenarios?
Well, so I think this is probably a great topic for another webinar, given how wide the topic of GDPR is. I think that as you expand your data footprint across more clouds, it does create complexity for managing customer data, right? Especially when a customer says, hey, I want you to remove my data. So one of the things that we try to do with Salesforce with all our clouds is provide the tools for customers to be able to implement a GDPR strategy that aligns with their legal team's mandate or desire. I think with the data feeds that exist, this data doesn't need to persist on SFTP. So one of the things you could do is, after you ingest it, if it was successfully ingested, you could remove it.
Right. Okay. Well, brilliant, Abraham. Thank you very much. Mihir, back to you.
All right, awesome. Thank you for the really good questions. So what we would like to do next is, Abraham went through kind of the high level of how's the connector set up, what do you need to do, how do you set it up at a high level, and what we would like to do next is walk through just the use cases that we see, that we typically see when we're talking to customers, as well as some of the partners that we work with as well. So we're going to start off with the standard base out of the box use cases like the transactional emails, and see what are kind of the considerations for that specifically, and then we're going to move on to behavioral emails, and then ultimately to something that's not supported by the connector directly, but how you can customize it. Oops, sorry. So transactional emails. Before we jump into the how, let's just talk about briefly what are some of the best practices. One of the key things from a transactional perspective, email perspective, is making sure that your commercial content specifically is to a minimum, right? It's really the 80%, 20% use case, and specifically from a canned spam perspective, you want to make sure that they are transactional and not having commercial content or promotional content within it. Making it simple, right? One of the biggest things to think about here is, you want to be able to finish the whole thing in 30 seconds. You don't want it to be any longer than that. And really just the key things, what are the key actions you want from that perspective? And then ideally, and this is why we do the triggered emails as part of the integration, is you want to make sure that's immediate, right? So you can actually set up through Marketing Cloud triggered emails, and that can go a lot faster. The brand itself obviously is very important. Thinking about the from names, the from address, make sure it's branded, make sure it's visible to your customers, and then ideally, if there is a way, provide two-way communications. And this is kind of where, as you talk about tomorrow, things like how you do service integration between these clouds, some of those things become pretty powerful in terms of engaging live chats or two-way messaging, etc. And then ultimately, obviously, don't forget to thank the users. So let's dive into the transactional use cases. The two specific ones that this covered is really around order confirmation and password, forgot password or reset password. So if you think about it from a overall flow perspective, right? What are some of the key things that we need to be set up for transactional emails? So on the left, we've got kind of the data export. We chatted quite a lot in the Q&A section around this, right? You want to make sure that the catalog and the order data is exported into Marketing Cloud, be it SFTP or any other method that you choose that we talked about. And that data is then available to Marketing Cloud via the data extensions. The template setup, obviously the emails still need to be set up in Marketing Cloud, and that process can be used as a way to then also take into account the order information, and you can also use that as a way to potentially highlight that 20% of content, which could be recommended products or things like that. And then the transaction itself, in terms of how it would work, is once the order is placed, and you configure a Commerce Cloud and the connector, you can actually then call that triggered email API via Commerce Cloud to then trigger that specific email. And the trigger itself will contain the order data in that XML format, and then Marketing Cloud can retrieve that data and then process that specific email. And if you have custom emails or customized emails, obviously, you can then use also some of the supplementary data based on that, because the order data will contain the customer information. You can use that as a way to query the other DE and bring in some other additional information if you wanted to, that you can then send to the end user or the end consumer. So a couple of the key workflow highlights: make sure that the SFTP account is set up. The Commerce Cloud can actually generate the API calls, and then obviously, the email templates are built in Marketing Cloud. In terms of the the configuration steps, right? Just kind of repeating, because I think it's really important to cover this. SFTP in marketing, you want to make sure that your catalog and content and order data is there within Marketing Cloud. Configuring that frequency, all right? You want to make sure it's at least once per day, but ideally it will be dependent on the use case requirements for the customer itself. The product catalog, it should be regularly imported into Marketing Cloud so that we're making sure that the catalogs are up to date in Marketing Cloud and the SKUs are matching, because that's going to be important, especially as we do things like product recommendations, because you want to make sure those are based on the current catalog. The email templates should reference the order data, which is already in the triggered message. Sorry. And then triggers in Commerce Cloud itself, right? You want to customize the storefront and replace that order confirmation logic with the trigger send API call. From a design considerations perspective, I think one of the things is streaming updates aren't really good for catalogs itself, especially when you have a very high variant / SKU to product ratio. Something to keep in mind, right? This is where we recommend kind of the SFTP updates. And then the catalog feed model itself will be impacted overall by the number of languages, currencies, and brands supported per storefront. The data extensions itself, again, specifically, the confirmation email leverages a supplemental data extension called shipping methods, and this is what's used to retrieve the labels and descriptions for the shipping methods leveraged by an order. And then the B2C commerce triggers for order confirmation itself, the delivery logic for the emails, the legacy emails for order confirmation should be replaced with the Marketing Cloud Connector custom hook implementation. A lot of this stuff is covered in the README files that we have for the connector itself, so you can look at that. We've got some of these links on the right-hand side here, and each of these, when the content becomes available to you guys, each of these links will have those links, so you can go look at it and look at it, read that overview. All of this is already available, so for like the commerce partners, make sure that you have access to this information. And if you're not a Commerce Cloud partner, please chat with your Salesforce Partner Manager to make sure that you're set up that way so you can get access to this content as well. So a lot of the stuff with transactional emails is done pretty much out of box, so to speak, from a connector perspective. As we move to the behavioral emails, there's going to be some additional pieces that's already been covered, but we're going to repeat it one more time to make sure you guys are clear on it. And Abraham, feel free to add more if I've missed anything on the transactional emails as well.
No, we're good.
As you think about behavioral emails, what's interesting is a little bit different. And I think the key piece, and we've talked to a lot of customers, as I'm sure you have, right? A big piece of the behavioral emails is that revenue and making sure that you get that revenue back. And what's interesting is the abandoned cart series, and series is a key piece here, not just one email, but actually 3 emails, ideally, is typically consistently higher than if you just did a standard promotional mail email. And brands sending that second abandoned cart had a 50% increase in revenue, and then those who actually sent 3 emails, so a 56% increase in revenue compared to just that one email, right? Reminder helps. Promotional, obviously, as part of that abandoned cart, certainly helps a lot more as well. Again, being able to be clear on why you're sending this email, why it's important, what are some of the, and this is kind of the story that Sanjay was talking about earlier. How do we make sure that everything that you're doing is mobile friendly, the call to action is really simple and straightforward, and then providing those links to ensure that if there are any challenges with that order, they can call customer service. And then tomorrow, when we cover some of the commerce and Commerce Cloud and Service Cloud use cases, you'll see how using the Service Console as a way to drive some of this also helps with the overall experience. And then lastly, from an abandoned cart perspective, right, send out email right away, right, just like transactional emails. Focus on the message and the tone, especially of the email that is being sent around on the service pieces, and then linking back to the cart with those specific cart items is super important. And then incentives and promotions, right? What's good is that the promotions help to take action on the abandoned cart emails, but also you don't want to wait. Just like Sanjay talked about, you don't want the customers to think that, hey, I'm just going to get discounts once I abandon the cart. So I'll just wait till that. So it's kind of a catch-22. And then obviously, continually optimize the emails and use Journey Builder as a way to do that, because as you see, it really makes life a lot better in terms of how, and the experience a lot better for the end consumer. So here's a very, very simple journey. I'm sure a lot of you guys do very complicated journeys, so it's nothing out of the ordinary here. But the most important piece here is really the wait times, and making sure that you're thinking through the wait times. Is it really 24 hours? Is it 48 hours? Is it whatever time that's good for that customer-specific business process, and thinking about that in terms of how you would approach it. So let's walk through the details of abandoned cart. So the flow here is really, as the user adds items to a cart, the collect.js code is being used, and this is things that's outside of the connector itself. It's actually getting used as a way to monitor the site behavior. When the user does not check out, it actually goes and triggers. There are specific triggers. These are the triggers we were talking about earlier, where you need to set up that professional services from Marketing Cloud as it stands today. And these triggers are then set up to listen to those events. And as those events occur, so a user doesn't check out, then that user gets put into Journey. And then typically you'll have some wait period as part of the journey itself. And then you send out those abandoned cart emails. If there are specific clicks, user clicks, or they take action, then once they take the action, you can actually start to do, isn't that fun? You can start to set up click tracking in email. And then if the customer ultimately purchased it, you can then record that history. And a lot of times when we talk to customers, it's not just around the abandoned cart and being able to send that email, but rather the analytics and the metrics behind it. So that piece itself is something that you can set up through PI, Predictive Intelligence, or Marketing Cloud Einstein. It will actually take care of that. Some of that click tracking is done as part of that. So let's walk through kind of the configuration steps here. Setting up that collect.js code in Commerce Cloud, right? You'll have to make sure you do this work. That's the additional work you need to do. Link to recreate the cart itself is custom work. It's not something that's available out of box, but it can be done. And it needs to be customized from a Commerce Cloud perspective. And then the endpoint to be able to build that cart is something that you'll need to build out a specific API endpoint to do that. Abraham, was there anything specific here we should call out in terms of the effort required, or anything specific to keep in mind from a Commerce Cloud perspective?
Well, so what customers typically do is that in the link that takes the customer back to their cart, there'll be a payload embedded that describes the products that were in their cart at that time. Okay, and so what you should do is have basically an intermediary page that consumes that payload, regenerates the cart, and then directs the customer to the experience that is attached to that specific event. You could customize that or personalize that within Commerce Cloud through source codes or a custom solution if you'd like. But the process is fairly straightforward. It is a customization though, so it's important to just keep in mind that this is work that has to be done.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Abraham. And then setting up that catalog import, we've talked about that. You know, streaming update can be done. It just depends on the volume. And as we talked about earlier, you know, depending on your volume and the number of SKUs and the combinations of SKUs, streaming update may or may not be valuable. Setting up triggers in Marketing Cloud. This is the piece, right? So we're going to build the email templates with the appropriate promotions. We're going to define those journeys and the emails with the wait periods and setting up that process. And the triggers to listen in the collect code is all done as part of those trigger setup in Marketing Cloud. And that's where that service is currently required. And again, safe harbor, there is a plan in the future to not have that happen. I just don't have timelines yet on when.
So one thing to reinforce on the catalog streaming updates, if your catalog's volatile, so as an example, if you're doing a flash sale or something like that where availability changes very, very quickly, this is where streaming updates may create some mismatches where there's an expectation that data may exist when it doesn't exist, or that products are available when they're not available. So it's important to keep in mind what data sync method to use for the catalog. And if you're using streaming updates, evaluate the individual use cases or possibly peak shopping events to determine whether it makes sense to maintain that for that event. This is something that through Commerce Cloud, you can certainly configure through a site preference and a little bit of customization to enable or disable those updates via configuration setting.
Awesome, thank you. And then the email recommendations, right? This is obviously an optional piece. You don't have to, but if you do, then set up the Commerce Cloud to Marketing Cloud Connect to bring that data, the purchase history and the customer information, the catalog information into Marketing Cloud, so you can use that to drive the specific email recommendations. The other thing with the email recommendations, just use the out-of-box logic that's in Marketing Cloud Einstein Predictive Intelligence to drive those email recommendations. You don't have to have the same recommendations that the Commerce Cloud website provides. We recommend that you think about this from two perspectives, right? The Commerce Cloud Einstein elements are to drive the user to the cart. The Marketing Cloud Einstein use case is to really drive click-through behaviors to go to the site ultimately. So the recommendations do not need to be exactly the same as Commerce, but be specific to the email itself to drive the appropriate intended behavior for the user. And then click tracking an email. Again, there's an audience file you can create, so you can have the URL field to get the product, and you can take that to purchase. I think the key thing here, as I mentioned earlier, is that the tracking URL is getting tracked through Marketing Cloud Einstein. So try and start with that specifically. See if that meets the needs. And if it doesn't meet the need, then you can think about like Google Analytics 360 or anything more custom. So again, looking through the solution design considerations for this, the SFTP setup for the catalog feed, we've talked about that multiple times. Customizing the catalog feed for product categorization. And then again, data feeds itself is best done end of day for retailers typically, and you can actually set this up in Commerce Cloud. And then again, collect.js considerations. We've put in some of those best practices on the right-hand side here to the link, so you can actually think about those. But yeah, please make sure that you're thinking through how those front-end and back-end changes are done in Commerce Cloud, specifically in relation to Marketing Cloud.
One of the things about collect.js, the documentation, the public-facing documentation on this is really, really great. So if you're interested in just looking into a little bit more what personalization builder offers and the different scenarios that are enabled online. If you go to help.salesforce.com and search for personalization builder, it will walk you through the individual things that you can do and provide code samples and snippets demonstrating what this looks like on the page. So just looking at that, you should be able to begin to infer what an implementation looks like, and hopefully that spurns your curiosity and creativity.
Cool. Subscription preferences. Make sure that those are stored in Marketing Cloud so that user may or may not get those emails. And then obviously you want to make sure that those are getting updated and synchronized across Commerce Cloud. The catalog
here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, just give me 1 second just give me one moment on subscription preferences. The Marketing Cloud connector cartridge exposes a controller, has a controller and exposes a couple of storefront endpoints that can be used to manage subscriptions by customers. So when I log in, I'm able to see what have I subscribed to. I can immediately check or uncheck those subscriptions, and then provided that that's configured correctly, the endpoint is configured correctly as a service to communicate to Marketing Cloud, my selections as a customer automatically go to Marketing Cloud, and I immediately subscribe or unsubscribe. So if you're curious to learn a little bit more about this, there's code already in the Marketing Cloud connector that demonstrates this.
Oh, thanks. Awesome. Thanks, Abraham. All right. I think we talked about the catalog feed model, and then click tracking to revenue. Again, use the base Einstein capabilities, and then see if you need something else like Google Analytics, etc. The performance considerations, right? If you've got more than 1 million product variations and SKUs, color, size, etc., that are getting imported every day, it will have a performance impact specifically for taking that flat file and importing to Marketing Cloud. So try and do deltas from a catalog perspective. It's going to help from just the performance overall. And then obviously only import data that you're going to use. We've seen certain cases where a lot of stuff gets imported with very wide tables, and just you want to make sure that you're only bringing in the data into Marketing Cloud that is going to be used to generate the specific emails or recommendations or other messaging that you're going to use Marketing Cloud for. And again, if you have questions on this, just reach out to us, and we can certainly help guide and provide some of the best practices. Localization obviously needs to be taken into account from a language, currency, product types, and you need to make sure that the connector is customized to support these specific use cases. And from a different inventory, right? So if you have different inventory for the same products or different business units that you're using, again, you need to kind of reach out to us for any best practices that you have around this. Okay, multiple brands. Just looking at time here, we've got 15 minutes. So again, please make sure that you understand how the recommendations, or what is it that customers want to do with this? How are they thinking about this? What are their goals as you share these cards across the different brands? And then how are you actually going to present those recommendations? The same card can be used across multiple brands, but it will present specific challenges. And you want to think through that a little bit more in terms of that, or consider multiple business unit licenses, especially if you're looking through something like that. And then last but not least, again, from a the recommendations, etc. Let the model do the work. Don't set up additional rules in like PI, etc. The model will take care of it and provide the right recommendations. Moving on to the coupon redemption. Really, this is extending the connector, right? So this is not a standard connector use case. It relies on a couple custom implementations specifically to track the coupon redemptions. And then at a very high level, the way it works is the redemptions are parsed out of the place orders, and then you send it to Marketing Cloud via REST. Then Marketing Cloud actually stores that coupon redemption data, and then journeys can be used via the DE to determine if coupon's been redeemed, and then based on the redemption, you can draft specific behaviors. So very high level flow from a diagram perspective. Again, you're generating the coupons in Commerce Cloud in this use case, and then you're exporting it to Marketing Cloud. The customer then purchases using that coupon. As that purchase occurs, you're parsing the redemption from the order itself, and then you push that redemption or that consumption of the coupon to Marketing Cloud, and then that redemption is then set up and updated within Marketing Cloud data extension. And then as you are running through reports and things like that, this is where you can check whether that coupon has been consumed, how many have been consumed. You have the customer information, so you can check whether a customer did consume that coupon or not. Specifically, setting up the data extension in Marketing Cloud to house the coupon redemptions. The key things you want to make sure you have is the coupon code, date, order ID, and email. And obviously this is associated to the email address that the person who actually did the order. So you just want to make sure that there may be some discrepancy if the person actually purchasing it different than the email of the actual consumer that it was sent to. So it's something to keep in mind. Exporting the coupon redemptions again through the Business Manager itself. I think from consuming or to leverage the historical coupon redemption data, you need to actually update all of this data and export it via CSV format into MC.
So one of the caveats with B2C commerce specific to coupon redemptions is that while you could export redemptions from within Business Manager, there currently isn't an API method that allows you to export those redemptions programmatically. Okay, so part of what we're advocating here is if you're looking to implement this, do a one-time export of the redemption data that lives in B2C commerce. You can then import that into Marketing Cloud via data extension, and then from that point on, the REST request should do the individual redemption updates.
So very quickly, the next few steps, the manually importing of the coupon redemption data into the DE, right? You want to make sure you're leveraging that coupon redemption data in the journeys. Again, I think Abraham, you covered this briefly, but right, you're importing the CSV data into the Marketing Cloud data extension. You're then creating a service designed to update the specific redemptions into Marketing Cloud, and then ultimately, after the order has been submitted, you're inspecting the order of the coupon redemptions itself, and then you're updating that as well via post-processing of that order into Marketing Cloud. And then specifically from a redemption perspective, if the redemption is found, then you send that redemption details via the REST call. Again, we've talked about this. This would be something a little bit more custom that you need to build out. And will be delivered to Marketing Cloud via the data extension update. And then ideally, this would be triggered through the order confirmation page. And then the DE containing the redemptions itself can now be used again from a journey perspective. So if it has been redeemed, then you can exit them out of the journey. If it hasn't been redeemed, then you can start to continue down additional promotional emails or however the journey is set up based on the customer and what they want to be able to do. So those are like the three use cases that we covered, something that's out of box, something with a little bit more customization, but using out of box capabilities. Then coupon redemption really is completely out of box, not supported out of box, meaning, and you can see the different steps required. So we have another 10 minutes, so let's open up for questions and what else Abraham and I can help answer.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mihir. That was awesome. And we have a lot of questions, so let me just try to get through these as quickly as possible. So a question from the very beginning. In your flowchart, you've outlined that there are welcome emails and gift certification emails going out. What kind of method are we using to trigger these emails? Are we using an API and a triggered send within Marketing Cloud, or is that synchronized via SFTPs and then processed once a day?
Oh, no, the transactional emails would be through the triggered APIs. So it would be a triggered API. Once the order takes place, it will do it as part of that. So you don't have to do that.
And would be real time, right? I think that's where the question is going.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Another question, actually a couple of questions around the topic of how opt-ins and opt-outs are flowing between Marketing Cloud and Commerce Cloud, and whether we are actually leveraging any kind of functionality to expose opt-in status of a customer within Commerce Cloud.
Imran, do you want to take this one?
Yeah. Is there any way you could expand on that? I'm not certain. I'm not certain what's being asked. I apologize.
I guess the way I think about it is you know, if so obviously to get opted into any kind of promotional type email or being able to communicate, that opt-in is going to be done in Commerce, and then that opt-in itself would be synchronized through the customer profile data into Marketing Cloud. It is kind of what I'm understanding from that question. So that's how you would kind of set up the opt-in and opt-out status from a consumer profile or the customer's profile perspective. And that's what you're synchronizing as part of the DE. When we talk about the SFTP piece, you're synchronizing the profile information. So that's how you would get the opt-in data.
Great. And I'm assuming, sorry, yeah, I'm assuming that through the alt subscriber status, but also using the right send classifications, we can then ensure that customers who have opted out are not getting promotional messages, but transactional messages, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I understand now. I apologize. Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. The opt-in, opt-out is managed exclusively or excludes any type of individual transactional sends or journeys. If there's a dependency there, you can certainly query that to determine should this customer be getting this email. All right, but when we think about the transactional emails, those are very direct and not dependent on any type of opt-in or opt-out membership. When you think about things like a welcome email, an order confirmation, or an order shipment status or fulfillment update.
Brilliant. Excellent. On transactional emails, is there any fail-safe? Is there anything that happens once, should Marketing Cloud or the connection go down? Is there anything that we can do in order to cache these calls, save these calls, to make sure that once the platform availability is reestablished, that messages will be continue to send?
So right now in the Marketing Cloud connector, there's nothing that's built in like that on the Commerce Cloud side. One of the things that you can do is, because this is all happening through a service, you can certainly audit the fact that there was a service failure, right? So the service handler framework within Commerce Cloud will do things like tell you, hey, the service wasn't available at this time. And then what you can do is you can audit those requests so that you can then stand up some sort of process that iterates over failed requests and then looks to resend them.
Right, okay. While we're talking about emails and transactional emails, I got a couple of questions around the subject of reporting. So I would assume that the data, for example, that we're collecting around the transactional messages will be available and exposed, like, you know, bounces and opens and such in Marketing Cloud. Is there any sync back to Commerce Cloud of this data, this reporting data?
No. So one of the things that Commerce Cloud doesn't do well, being very candid, is email, right? Because it's a very developer-intensive activity. There's no kind of tracking or visibility or analytic reporting within Commerce Cloud that describes email performance. So inherently, Commerce Cloud doesn't have any way to report on this data or the behavior of emails. So one of the great benefits of implementing the Marketing Cloud connector is that you now get visibility into email and campaign performance in the same place where you're doing your template and journey authoring. That data it doesn't come back to Commerce Cloud, though, largely because there's no way to really view or present the data.
Okay, brilliant. If we have multiple Marketing Cloud business units in the play, is there anything that we need to watch out for? For example, Marketing Cloud customers that are leveraging business units to keep brand data or local data separate from each other?
Well, so multiple business units definitely introduces complexities. One of the areas we see this is that when customers have multiple brands or multiple storefronts, Mihir talked through in some of the use cases where if a customer has a shared cart, right? So what shared cart looks like across brands in Commerce Cloud is instead of having separate sites by brand, there's basically one site, and then through a series of customizations, what you do is you create the individual brand experiences. Well, so from a Commerce Cloud standpoint, that's technically one site, okay? And so if you want to delineate by brand, typically you do that by business unit, which then means that when emails go through or you're about to initiate a transaction or initiate a journey, you have to understand the context that that customer's in, specifically what brand are they in, and use that specific brand to trigger the right journey. So the guidance here is just understand that there's complexity here, and you want to always maintain the context of the customer, so that way you know what you're triggering, so that the experience that they're getting is the right one.
Okay. I got a couple of questions around the cartridge in general and where we're going with development. One of the things that stood out and was asked a couple of times is texting, SMS messaging. Is there anything in the play right now that our partners or customers can use to use, for example, a text message to be triggered through Marketing Cloud as, for example, a transactional email?
So what I'll be candid, my Marketing Cloud Kung Fu is not as strong as my Commerce Cloud Kung Fu, but I believe that we do have customers that are doing this very exact thing, using the framework to be able to trigger a message or a journey that instead of generating an email actually generates a text message. I'm not certain what those dependencies are. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Abraham, so within Marketing Cloud, you have the ability to trigger SMSs the same way you can trigger emails. So the out-of-box experience from the connector perspective is some of the triggered API emails, but you can certainly extend it and also use the API specifically for SMS within Marketing Cloud to trigger the SMSs if you wanted to as well. So there isn't a limitation from that perspective. You would just use the triggered APIs for SMS sending versus using the emails. Same way for push. So if you're using mobile push within the app itself, there's triggered push messaging APIs available in Marketing Cloud, so you can use those as a way to drive those messaging as well. So ultimately, I think this is the key message around the connector is we've got some things that have been started and used, so let's say for emails, but you can certainly extend it to use the other triggered APIs that Marketing Cloud provides as well.
Right. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Being conscious of time, just two more things from my side before I hand this back to Sanjay for a few closing notes here. I got a couple of questions on Marketing Cloud Einstein. What I would like to point out here is that we from Partner Development have a fast path available that you guys can actually sign up for. We're running a couple of sessions here and there, especially in EMEA right now. So if you talk to somebody that you know at Partner Development or look at the partner community itself, this is where can you find dates around when we are going to be offering that workshop FastPath around Marketing Einstein next time, so you can learn more about how this actually works in detail, because I know that it was mentioned a couple of times by these two fine gentlemen that we're presenting today here. The other thing is that I got a couple of questions around how to embark on that whole commerce journey. For those of you who have experience in Marketing Cloud or another cloud, and how to get to B2C commerce, to Commerce Cloud, to understand how it works, please have a word with your partner account manager, with your partner representative at Salesforce, because we have tons of enablement materials out there that will get you started with anything like Salesforce, and that's what we basically do. So please make sure to reach out to them to get the information that you need. And with that, I would like to hand back to Sanjay. Guys, thank you very much for your time today.
Well, thank you, everybody. And I got to tell you, a presentation is awesome when the most popular question is, when am I going to get the recording? And can I get a hold of the presentation? Well, the answer is yes to both. It's going to take about a week. We've taken all the feedback and the questions. We're going to try and make some adjustments with the content and get it out for y'all. But thank you so much for your time for the last hour and a half. Please come back in 22 and a half hours because the saga continues with the second part, that being from Commerce Cloud to Service. So please come back. Please encourage your friends, your colleagues to come and listen in. As you can tell, it's been a great session, especially when the speaker starts talking about Kung Fu. It's a party. So once again, thank you, everybody. Both Mihir and Abraham, y'all are awesome, but y'all are nearly not close to being as awesome as the fantastic attendance that we've had from all our partners and customers. So thank you again. See you in 22 and a half hours. It's going to be fun. Cheers, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.